know that it's time to enter your sphere?
Absolutely. That's the life of the bike sphere, you know? It's not even my sphere.
Do you
It's
miss do you miss the space?
yeah. I adjusted a lot to,
Have to.
what was going on. Yeah. And like I heard of some people's adjustments. I'm like, wow, I didn't do very well. But the thing is, like, right before quarantine, I was scrambling because nobody knew what COVID was going on. And there was like,
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
some people were like, "Oh, you're still running live at the bike," and it was a tough decision because some people working at the bike are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, it's tough.
So we didn't know that the stimulus package and the unemployment was going to be boosted.
Yeah.
So we decided to end the week, and basically a lot of big companies, ended that week. So I felt like we were on par.
Yeah. I would say, like, when you say that you made mistakes or whatever, I think it's literally impossible not to make mistakes when something like
That's
COVID.
fair.
I made mistakes. I got super lucky in that we launched our course right as things were shutting down, but thankfully it was an online course, and so it probably was a little bit of a wash, maybe slight loss for COVID because it's an online poker thing. But generally speaking, right, it would be so challenging to not take a massive L when you have such a systemic and economic shift like what COVID did, right? And so it would be, if y'all didn't make mistakes, I wouldn't think that you're being honest, right? That's the way that I would think about that. It'd be impossible to not make mistakes, literally, for something like that.
Sure, but like obviously I have a lot of friends in the gaming industry, and they crushed it during COVID. Especially one of my best friends is the co-founder of chess.com, and after
Oh,
Queen's Gambit
oh,
came out, boom.
oh. I
So
mean, yeah, but like that's like one of those things. So props to them for capitalizing on it effectively, right? Especially with a massive Twitch boom.
yeah,
But so that dude or that person had a massive bank, right? When you have something so COVID happens, everyone's inside, you have a cultural phenomena like Queen's Gambit, and then you have the main infrastructure for chess. Yeah, like you had to do a really good job executing on it, but that's a softball that's
yeah,
thrown up to you. Whereas the majority of people didn't have that kind of a shot, right?
yeah.
It's
No,
just
I
it's
mean,
completely different.
places closed around me. It was really heartbreaking because I know some of them personally, and then the poker sector is very fluid. So some people are
Yeah.
online, but then people in the gaming industry. Shout out to all the chess.com people like Eric J, Daniel, and the rest. But yeah, they killed it, and just the video game industry also killed it. So
Oh, yeah. Everything wherever I remember that for, like that first month, the online games were insane too. I was just sitting there like, this is gonna last for a month. I'm gonna stop doing everything and just play online for a month, and then when this ends, I'll go back to living my normal life.
I definitely messed that up. But I was recovering from like health stuff, and I had so much anxiety. Just like it's
I
like you said, I'm looking a lot better now. I feel a lot better now. I'm not actually 100%, but like I had a couple scares. I had Bell's
Yeah,
palsy,
totally.
which I had last time. Was
Yeah,
recovering when last time we were on, and
yeah,
then just like it's yeah, just slowly getting better. And I do want to credit like JJ De La Garza and Garrett Adelstein for like encouraging me to meditate. It
oh
wasn't
yeah.
like an end all thing,
No,
but it really just like gave me. I think Garrett mentioned it best. Like it's like recharging a battery so that you could like last longer. I
the,
don't want to misquote him though, but
I really like that vocabulary, especially when it comes to meditation. You and I have talked about this. I also hit a really gnarly burnout last year where I was in a like 5 months long migraine cycle, was like having some intense anxiety. And the battery analogy to me is super helpful because what I think a lot of people learned through COVID is that emotional resources are finite. The amount of energy that you have is finite. And we, as a society, have kind of built an infrastructure where you don't really have to pay that much attention to it because things are easy, right? Like you can order your own food. You like a lot of and this is true for not everybody, obviously, but for a lot of people, you kind of took for granted and can kind of autopilot away from the amount of resources that it takes to actually keep yourself healthy. And then when you have something intense from a cultural consciousness perspective, such as COVID, where everyone is burning out, everyone's getting anxious, it creates a cascading effect where that happens end over end. And I remember, so for me, like I've been meditating for a long time, but I even hit a heavier burnout where same as you, like you had the Bell's palsy thing. I had a really intense migraine thing, went like multiple doctors. And the thing that ended up helping me was doing a medicinal ketamine treatment in Los Angeles. And I remember in the middle of one of my ketamine treatments, I literally was like, I had the vocabulary of like, I am a battery I like you and I are similar. We power the systems around us, right? Like you run live with the bike, you have people that you power. I have 5 projects and like relationships and all these things, and I'm kind of a battery for that entire space that kind of keeps it going. And when the battery burns out, it burns out hard, right? Like because not only do you have to use the battery to keep yourself up, but you have to use the battery to keep the system around you up as well. And that was a huge thing for me in that ketamine experience, was having that vocabulary, being like, dude, you burnt your battery out 100%. Like, it's not even a little bit of a burnout. You hit 0, and this is what 0 feels like. And then it takes time, and you have to like, once you hit 0, like getting from 20 to 100 is exponentially easier than getting from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And meditation helps you not get to 0, right? It helps to maintain that level, kind of a thing.
Totally agree. And like JJ introduced me to Daily Calm, and
a good
one app that's being advertised is Breathe, BRETHE, and some of the visuals like actually
that's awesome.
They like cleanse my brain. It's weird.
Dude,
like,
if it works, that's my favorite thing, is when it works, right?
Yeah.
Like you can feel it working. It's not BS. Like something is happening physiologically. Someone developed this product, right? It wasn't as if they just randomly picked those images. A super smart person developed this product for you, and then it actually works on you. That's some good shit. Like you pay them the money. Like they earned it, kind of a thing.
So yeah, different images, like some are not positive, but some are like super powerful, and I'm sure everybody's body is different, so you're just like reacting differently to all these things. 100%. So we got some chat fam in. Let's introduce, this is Dylan Weisman, Upswing Poker. I don't know your other projects. I remember the first time I met you was on Live at the Bike, and we're going to play a couple of those hands, and then we went over to Ryan Fee's house and we played the classic game of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, you caught Ryan during his addicted to Magic phase, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these games were in my past, so it was good to revisit them.
Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah, and then you had you left the country, right? You did some.
Yeah, I did. I left the country for a minute. I tend to leave the country every year for about 3 to 4 months, pre-COVID. Right now, obviously not, but yeah, I tend to live outside of the country. Probably, I'd say on average 2 months a year would be a good way of describing it. Just like going to Southeast Asia. That place my jam.
I am not much of a traveler, but everybody's different, So I did travel in my youth for that stuff, and then every decade I have a stint, and then it's just like I like being home.
I respect that so much, and for me the process of traveling is a very essential part of my being, because it helps to reset my frame of reference. When you're someone like yourself or like me, or anyone who's kind of, as I said before, the middle of a lot of projects, you can tend to lose scope, and you can tend to lose perspective really easily, because you're so locked into this matrix that you've just defined for yourself, and the system that you defined for yourself. And so, especially going back to Southeast Asia, where I have a lot, like I've lived in Vietnam for 6 months during college. And so every time I go back, I have people that I go see, and just having that perspective shift allows me to, one, not burn out, but then 2, be able to come back with a more unobscured frame of reference for all the things that the things that I'm currently building. And that doesn't mean that like I go and just mess around the entire time. I'm usually working while I'm there, but it's just being around different people, being in different environments. The last time I was in Asia, or no, not the last time, the second last time I was in Asia, I met my partner, who I'm still dating. We've been together for 3 years. It's just like, it helps with your spatial recognition, just like to get out and come back.
I described it to the Live with the Bike director, Brian Arakaki. I just talked to him yesterday, and because like I've been, things have been lightening up, so I've been going all and about, like private games like San Diego, but I went to UCSD, so it's like homecoming. I haven't gone to NorCal in a while, but a lot of times like seeing my old friends, it just refreshes like a lot. It re-energizes me in a way that
feels so good. Hell yeah.
The major topics we have are why the great game of Pot Limit Omaha in, I was going to say 2020, but now 2021. I've been a big advocate of it, but at this juncture, it's like, I'm so old school. Like, I don't know how to, when people ask like what their advice is for being a professional poker player, I'm so situated, and my situation's so stable I don't know how to tell people, because I remember the instability coming up, because when you're coming up, you have a lot of questions like, am I a winning player? Okay, I'm a winning player. What do I do with it? Do I move stakes? Like, do I
totally
do whatever? And everybody's different. Like, my regime now may not even be duplicable. Same with yours. So
yeah,
it's hard to advise people, I guess, on how to navigate through this world.
Totally. Do you want me to answer a couple of those questions? Would that be helpful?
So yeah, first of all, I like, me and many other people say, start with no limit hold'em. Make sure you're a winning no limit hold'em player. Like, get through the study habits and practical adjustments, and then once in no limit hold'em, you're going to get to a point where it's capped, where it's like you may not have the skill cap to move higher. The games are not as good. I commonly say in LA, the casinos, no limit hold'em can often be raise, full fold, raise, full fold. That's not a game, you know? So,
yeah.
And then several options are limit hold'em, mixed games, and the great game of Pot Limit Omaha, which as of 2 years ago, I have strongly advised. Courses like, yours and Chris Wayner and your current one.
Yeah, totally.
Have made it much more difficult to navigate. I could watch people improve like right in front of me.
Oh yeah, it happens very quickly too. Yeah, I can kind of take from what you're saying maybe and expand. So the first thing you said is to start with hold'em, and I get asked this question a lot. If I'm just starting off in poker, where should I start? How should I approach learning? How should I approach growing? What game should I pick? Things like that. And the first thing that I always kind of point people towards, and I have a whole video about this in my new course, is just trying to better understand, what are you optimizing towards? What does this success look like for you? So that's definition number one. Is it to make the most money possible? Is it to have a side job where you are working 15 to 20 hours a week and having sustainable income that way? Is it to have a very cool hobby where you don't need to make money and it's for you more about just becoming the best at the game? So the first thing is about just better understanding for you personally what your goals are, because if you don't know what that is, you don't know what you're going to be able to optimize towards. And then from there's a couple places you can kind of branch off from. I don't think that it's bad to learn PLO first. I think that some people have this sort of a logical fallacy that because there are more cards, it's more complicated. And whereas that might be true at like the absolute basest of base levels, once you get one step above that, it's not true anymore, because what it does is it forces you to learn the foundations of the game very quickly. For example, a lot of people that learn Hold'em, they don't learn about card removal ever, because you have two cards, you don't have to think about it that much. And even at the highest levels, card removal is important, but randomization is a thing that kind of shows up. Whereas in PLO, it's one of the first things I teach. It's like, what are the cards in my hand? How does that interact with my opponent's range? That's one of the fundamental tenets. And so having that be the way that your thought process gets constructed from the beginning, I think is a really good thing. With that being said, it is kind of intimidating for people to approach, just because there's more cards and more combinations you have to think about. And so if you are somebody who started in Hold'em and want to transition over to PLO or something else, what I do usually recommend is getting to a point where you pick one game that you want to get good enough at where you can learn game theory. And so I don't care if you start in Hold'em and transition to PLO. I don't care if you get really good at Hold'em and start learning game theory from there. For someone who wants to be relevant in poker, let's say that we're picking the life path where you want to be able to play poker professionally over the next 5 years or something, even in a live arena. You need to, in my perspective, have a base understanding of game theory, because that's where the tools are coming from for teaching. That's where the modern solutions and strategies are coming from. And so picking whichever game you want to pick to get you to that point, because it doesn't matter if you do it in Hold'em or PLO, when you get to a high level, you have to learn game theory, either one. And so that's kind of what I recommend to people, is pick one that you are going to get good enough at to be able to learn. And then you can start learning both. Like a lot of my private coaching students play both games, and they have me for one coach and a good Hold'em coach for their other coach. And the reason why that's true, this is a Ryan Fee adage, where it's like, you want to be able to show up to a casino and play whatever the best game is. So if I show up to a casino, usually the best game is a PLO game, but if there's like a 50-100 Hold'em game running, I need to be able to sit in that game as a high stakes professional poker player. And so it's mostly, and the way that you do that is by getting good enough at one game that you understand the core axioms of game theory and how games work. And then you can now apply that with very basic learning tools like my course or any of the thousands of things that are out there to learn from, and then just kind of be able to go take those understandings of game theory and move them over to a new sphere. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, and you said it really well. And it's just like the no limit hold'em comment is more like there's so much material out there that you can verify like a lot of stuff, and it creates study habits. And then the other games such as PLO mixed games, there's material out there, but it doesn't go as deep. And then like the Upswing course, it's delving into that, in which if other people don't have this kind of knowledge base,
yep,
they're gonna get wrecked.
Yeah, exactly correct.
So one of the interesting things is like when you and Chris Wayner came, I'm not out of the mix when it comes to like hardcore studying. So I gotta, obviously I'm a veteran of the game, and Chris Brewer called me out. Like whenever I see PLO, I'm so fascinated. Whereas like everything Hold'em, I'm sure it's there's deeper levels every passing day. I'm just like when they're seeing that, done everything. So, but for PLO, I'm just like super fascinated. I obviously watch your Twitch stream, your bankroll challenge on Upswing, and I just catch a lot of your comments, and it's even in the microscope, it's under the microscope, it's helped me. And
awesome.
A lot of the and I'm still learning because I'm watching you and adjusting my game, and like just like I think you talked to All in Pav, like he's doing well at the PLO tournaments, but he claims he doesn't really know anything about PLO.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you
go.
No, I'm doing well in the PLO tournaments. I've binged 2 4K guarantees. I came in second, and I obviously bricked, some. But I'm sure I'm making, just because you bing doesn't mean you're playing them well. That's one of the big things.
But people are playing them really badly, and that's another thing about PLO when it comes to whether or not to approach the game. Because there wasn't, so I kind of just solved this in the ecosystem, unfortunately for a lot of people, fortunately and unfortunately. But generally speaking, it felt harder to enter the game. It was challenging to find an entry point where there was solid enough information at a reasonable price to be able to get a foothold and start playing. And because that was true, the general ecosystem is taking more time to get up to a proficiency level, because it's hard to get into the game with really good knowledge from the start. I think that's going to change a little bit now with my new course, because I do think that it actually really helps people that know nothing about PLO to start from scratch and then build their way up. But it's still going to take time. And if you have not missed the PLO train, especially in live PLO, you are going to be able to print money in live PLO for years and years to come, just because it's such a patience game. And once you understand the fundamentals, the system is not that challenging to reconstruct and to make money in those live PLO games.
So while my commentary is, much more elementary than your PLO course, it does adhere to the same things. Stick to fundamentals and fundamental concepts. And when we were commentating together, I was like really terrified that like everything I said was going to outdate what I said. It's like, no, it just goes deeper. But like 95% of what I said was still relevant and applied.
There's a difference between tactics and overall understanding, right? So the way that you understand PLO, your tactics aren't refined because you haven't gotten into the lab. Volume. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that your overall approach is wrong. It just means that you need to put in and that's a really good thing. Something that's challenging for a lot of newer players is, what tactics should I use? Not what tactics. What strategy overall should I use? How should I approach thinking about the game even? What vocabulary should I use to talk about myself? To evaluate whether or not I'm a winning player? To evaluate what games I'm supposed to play in? And those are the long-earned lessons that take time to really sink in, like bankroll management, tilt control, how to be a sustainable professional. Those things aren't going to go away. The things that are changing are the tactics and the most modern understanding of the games, just with the advent of all these new technologies, especially as they become easier and easier to use.
So one thing that I definitely want to stress, and I stress in the commentary live with Bike in my narrative, is that every ecosystem is different. So while I have a live 5, 10, 25, 50, 100 PLO hand, that's not going to be the same. This is in San Diego. It's not going to be the same as LA. It's not going to be the same as Vegas. It's not going to be the same as the Bay Area. And those are the only territories I'm really familiar with. And I've mentioned in the podcast and in commentary, I've played in all these places like a lot, so I kind of know how they're different. And then the other place in the world, God forbid. And then the online, even different sites, they have, different cultures. Like I'm going to have global poker hands, and global poker is much more fit or fold. They're not as balanced as competitive fields or hyper competitive fields. So that's going to show with like my hands, because I'm just adjusting the environment. Whereas like some more advanced plays like may actually be punting in these environments.
Totally. I think that it's important to think about the ecosystem you're playing in. One thing that I have found to be super helpful when trying to navigate the different streets, like what street are you walking down kind of a thing, is that yes, you maybe the way that you respond to those different situations is important, but if you show up to those streets being really fucking good at kung fu, it doesn't matter what street you're walking down, because whoever jumps you, you're gonna be able to mess them up. And that's where I think game theory has, and especially the solid understanding of game theory is truly the new meta. Because even in those games where you have to adjust to the player pools and understand, I'm not a full robot. I am a small hybrid relative to Chris, who is full robot, like 100% full robot. And he's good enough to be able to do that. For those of us that are not as gnarly as Chris is in the game theory streets, we kind of take some of the magic that we've learned and use that to adjust. But one thing that I've really learned is that the way to best adjust is by knowing what is optimal, by knowing how to have super solid fundamentals from a game theory perspective, because then the adjustments become easier. If somebody is being too aggressive, you know what the baseline should be, therefore you know they're being too aggressive, and you know the optimal way to exploit that, because you actually can do that in an optimal setting. Exploitation is not just like a he knows that I know that they know game anymore. It's much more of a, this is what's optimal, they're deviating from optimal, I punish them by knowing where that deviation is and then adjusting accordingly.
Right, and Chris Burr mentioned that too, is like when people are like, oh, GTO or exploitative, that they're actually very interrelated.
Yeah, until you get to the top level, and then it's GTO. Like at the top, like if you're trying to be quarter 50 online using exploitative play, good luck. Yeah, you're gonna get kicked hard. I mean, it depends. Maybe in like 1K, 2K, exploitative play is a thing, right? Like in Chris's games on GG Poker or whatever. But if you're trying to be like the best dudes at quarter 50 on stars or whatever, and you're trying to exploit them, that's not the game that you're playing. You're playing the wrong game.
Yeah, every field is different, and like I haven't played competitively online in less than a decade. I don't know how long, but like I know how much work it used to be necessary, and like now it must be like infinitely worse. So I'm just not even.
It's a thing. It's for sure a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I suspect the win rates are lower now than before. I don't know.
Totally. Win rates are lower. Rake is higher. Ecosystems are competitive. People are still bad. Right, like you can still make 6 figures.
That's why I left, buddy. That's why I left. Oh, I mean,
no, you can still make 6 figures playing on. Like, I think you can still make 6 figures on WSOP.com, the site that I play on, playing 1, 2 to 5, 10, and do it very comfortably and not have to think about it. If you're the best player in those games, like in those games, there's one other dude that I know that's better than me. At the higher stakes, there are a couple people that are better than me, but in those specific games, there aren't. And I know if I were to sit there and grind those games for as long as I could, that's not maximizing the amount of money I can make. But if I needed to grind, I could just go do that kind of a thing. And you can, as long as you've put in the work.
So that's one of the topics that we didn't go over to comment towards up and coming pros, is like, know what skill sets you have. So if you only could play poker in the year, what is your range? What's your approximate?
Yeah.
And like that, use that as a framework. And if you want to do other things, like Dylan's doing Upswing, I'm doing Live with a Bike, and we have other things going on. And some of my other projects like are sunk costs for me. Like I'm still dumping money in there. So figure out like what's relatively stable, what you could do, and just like not break a sweat, and then expand and see if you could increase your income other ways.
Yeah, I have the way that I think about this is not original. It's literally copying what Google does. So Google, like if you think about them from their inception, and a lot of the more stable companies, Facebook, they all did the same thing. Think of yourself as a product, right? You are a product, or a product suite, multiple products. You're a company, you have multiple products. The first thing you need to do is make sure that your cash cow is robust, right? And so Google, they have Google search. They expanded that to Google AdWords that prints them as much money as they need, right? And they did that, but they devoted a lot of time to that at first, right? Like for me, for poker, I devoted a lot of time to getting very, very good at PLO, making sure I was in the lab, making sure that my understanding of game theory was modern, making sure that my approach to the game was modern. And once I'd put all that time in, I now have that stability, both in terms of income, both in terms of knowledge base, where now I don't have to really worry about expanding into additional ventures. Because a lot of the times what happens is people, they don't have their base very solid, and so they overextend themselves by expanding into multiple ventures simultaneously, and then everything fails at the same time. Your initial cash cow fails, your other ventures fail because you haven't set up a solid enough infrastructure for yourself. Like how are you going to try to take on a project where you have 30K of capital when you have 50K of variance filled as your general liquidity, right? Oh, yeah. Because that's your bankroll. And so many people end up doing this. They overextend themselves, and so when I really try to think about, and what has helped me to be successful in this very specific realm is the understanding that each venture I take on is an individual product. And I need to feel how that fits into my overall product suite as a company, the company being me as a person. So I have my professional poker playing as one of my main products. I have my teaching as I've been a teacher since I was in 6th grade. Like those two things are solid foundations that I can use. And then also like my background in actual business, right? Like going into business intelligence analytics, product development. These are all things that I spent time getting really good at that are stable. Now I can start taking some bigger swings because I know that solid infrastructure is there. And for people this is one of the biggest issues I see for those that have like get rich quick schemes or whatever, is that they don't have the foundation in place to actually be able to execute on something that'll scale really large. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, totally agree. And we're going to go over some fallacies too. Like you said, okay, so if you crush the was it 2.5 on WSOP? Like
yeah, 2.4, like 2.436.
Okay, 2.436. What's your best case scenario? Approximate best case scenario.
Like low 6 figures.
Low 6 figures, like 200K.
I don't know if you can make 200. You probably would need 510 and 1020 to get up to 2. Would be my guess. But I don't know. I haven't full timed these games, right? I play a mix of live online, and we also don't have stats tracking on this site, so it's hard for me to see my BB per 100, which sucks. I have to kind of guesstimate it. Right. But I like having played these games, especially during my bankroll challenge, and I still I'll sit 2.4, 1.2, 2.436 if it's running, just because it's printing me money, right? Like if I have an hour before a call, and it's easy for me to just go sit those games because I know that, like if I'm going to be battling 10-20 heads up, I'm not going to do that passively. I'm going to make sure that I've studied, know what I'm doing, really paying attention. But those games, they're easy to just generate quote unquote passive income in.
Yep. No, I agree. I do the same thing. I try to squeeze stuff here and there. But one of the fallacies is say the threshold is 150,000 a year of good case scenario.
Yeah.
You can't when people say, oh, how much can I make? They don't accommodate that things can go bad.
Oh, totally.
And you may not be at the skill level to hit
exactly
150,000 a year.
Yeah.
But if you're a winning player, maybe you hit 50,000 a year. But that's more reality, because as poker players, I don't know about you, but most of the time I don't do this, but there is a hint of this in probably all poker players. You think of optimal or good scenarios, and then when the bad scenarios happen, you're just what do I do? Which has happened a couple times in my career, thankfully.
Yeah, happened in mine also.
Yeah, so that's something that up-and-comers really need to be you say you're ready for the bad scenarios, but when they really hit, are you truly ready to adapt correctly,
Completely. PLO is something that teaches you that lesson real quick. And that's why in my new course, as well as in my advanced course, I have a pretty heavy emphasis on the mental game side of things, how to handle downswings, how to handle self-talk, tilt control, emotional awareness, all those things, because for a game like PLO, where equities run so close, the variance is intense. I've had a 6-month downswing before, literally losing for 6 months straight, and in games where I think I'm winning between 5 and 10 BB per 100, right? And that can happen. And part of that downswing was me driven. I was making mistakes. I was tilting more than I normally would. My play wasn't as optimal as it should have been. Even with all of that, I'm still plus EV in these games. And the thing that's more important is the awareness that because I was in a downswing, I wasn't playing optimally. I need to be taking more breaks. I need to be resetting from poker, I ended up taking 2 full months off, literally, like no poker for 2 full months. And then coming back to it more recently, getting back into studying, because because the course was launching, I wanted to make sure that my eggs were in a basket kind of a thing. But you have to be aware that this game is one that requires patience, both from the cards and from yourself. Yeah. And a lot of people in poker, they see people like you see the high stakes room. Someone has like 10 to 20K stacks in front of them. You see live at the bike, live streams. There's so much out there that kind of glorifies the up end of poker. And that's been what's true for a long time. Yeah. And so you see that and you recognize that even the players in those games are losing. Like a lot of the players in those games that even are professionals are losing. And so it's challenging to kind of actually understand the normalization that yes, the upper end scenario can exist, but this is what your average return is. And this is what you should be expecting. And also there's I quote that, as you said, as the best player in the pool. The average player in the pool in a 1-2, 2-4, 3-6 game, I don't know what they're going to make in those pools because I'm not an average player in those pools. And you'd have to go ask somebody who's in those pools to figure that out.
So, like we mentioned, somebody like your journey, my journey, Doug Polk's journey, Ryan Fee's, is difficult to duplicate. One, a lot of stuff was done in a different era, an easier era, and a lot of the projects that we have done, you could try to compete against them, but you're competing against a more established product and it's uphill battle.
Totally.
Which it's doable. Google was not the first search engine. There were several beforehand, most notably.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the thing. When people ask, especially the poker vloggers, oh, how much can I expect to make? It's ooh, that's not an easy question to answer. And they're gonna, and I've seen, Brado and Andrew Nemi and Johnny Vibes. A lot of their answers are very optimistic when it comes to what happens in life, the card runouts. So that stuff is just not stable, especially with so few hands.
Yeah, but they also how do I describe this? Their job is to get people hyped, right? As a vlogger, you want to give people the upper end so that they pay more attention. I'm not saying that what they're doing is disingenuous. I'm saying that it's being framed in a way where it kind of that's what's all they have to do that. They have to highlight it in a maybe rose-colored glasses way, because that's what that's why people watch. And I'm not a vlogger, and my brand is not around blowing smoke up people's asses. My brand is around real talk. If you were to ask me how do I get better at PLO, I'm going to say, watch this course, train, watch this other course, train real hard, put in a lot of volume, pick up good coaches, learn how to use this. I'm going to give you a realistic way to get to where you need to go if you want to be the best player. But if your goal is to be a competitive amateur, I'm going to give you different advice, right? And so I'm not going to sell you a dream that isn't unrealistic. I'm going to ask you what's actually your goal and then try to put you in a position to hit that goal in the most efficient way possible.
This is where Upswing and Live at the Bike commentators' narratives are very aligned, because I've been accused of being cynical about poker and not encouraging. I'm dude, I've been there. I'm almost at 20 years. Literally next year and we'll be at 20 years. I've been there, done that. Gone all the way to the top, different types of games, and just I've been punched in the face, not as bad as most people, but if you're still around, you ran good in 20 years, because the cards can screw you really badly. So
yeah, it's also a different feeling for what you're describing, because yours was in a live format where run bads can feel so much worse. When you're running bad live, you just have to sit there for hours doing nothing, and it just drains your soul I think in a different, that's what I've really seen from the live pros that have lasted a long time versus the online pros. The online pros that have been around for a while, they're pretty healthy, because they converge to their win rates at a higher frequency. It's easier to drop down in stakes and still get in good volume and then still have a good hourly at lower stakes. Whereas the live dudes that I've known for a long time generally are just a little bit more salty, because it's just true. It's because of the way that live poker works, right? It's just the infrastructure.
Yeah, but I've done everything. I started live heavily online for a long time, and then now I'm very hybrided. So And I know you caught me. So did Ryan Fee, Dan Zach, and JJ caught me on like a literally 14 to 15 month losing 85 to 90% of my hands, like just being dealt the losing hand, and it was just like
bad.
Numerically, I've gone through worse online, but like when you go through live, you just, especially propping, you're in worse game conditions, but you do get a salary, but just like it's tough.
It's tough, and it's also impossible to be playing your best in those scenarios. So even if you're getting a negative card distribution and you are a professional, no matter, like, you're a human still. Yeah. And so you're going to be leaking EV when those are your card distributions. So like, no matter what, because you're just not in a great headspace because you've been losing for so long.
Yeah.
So even if you've been a professional forever, that's a huge thing as well. Just being honest to yourself and understanding that, yes, variance is hitting me in the face, and I probably am also costing myself money because I'm a human being, and that's just how that shit works.
Yeah, because when you're winning and when you're fresh, like I know you have some live read stuff in you because I played with you, and when you're losing or you're steaming after losing a hand, your individual play may not be on tilt, but you do lose certain abilities.
Your awareness goes down insane, and whether that be so. And I think that can show up in multiple ways. It can be your awareness of your own game, which is a lot of people's tilt. It's like they don't see themselves punting, even though it's really obvious to the table. It's your awareness of your mental condition and how much bandwidth you're using. Like, do you know how much this is burning you out? It's your awareness of what you're saying, live reads, having the ability to pick up on things at the table, pick up on frequencies that maybe people are fucking up on. And so there's the way that I think about it is kind of like the way that I think about anxiety, where if you're an anxious person, what's kind of happening is that internally you're just buzzing all day, right? Like your brain is buzzing, and that internal buzzing is taking up emotional energy and bandwidth, resources. It takes up your time and energy to just be buzzing internally so long. So you feel more tired and you feel more burnt out, even if you're not doing anything, because your brain is just chirping so hard and your body is freaking out so hard. It literally drains your physical resources. And that's what happens when you're going through these downswings, because in your head, you have to tell yourself, it's okay, there's variance, and you're taking up, even though it is sometimes. It's not your fault 100%. Maybe it is. No, yeah.
Hunting.
Oh, no, I know. Dude.
Goodwill punting.
I cried recently, literally at that scene in Good Will Hunting. That movie, I hadn't seen it. I think it's my top 3 favorite films. I love that film.
And it's for me.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Changed my life.
Yeah, same. But that's very much what it is. It's like you are taking energy to be sustainable. And the best players in the world, what they have learned how to do is to really not compartmentalize, but become efficient in that process of like, okay, I'm in a downswing. How do I best mitigate this? How do I best understand where my resources are going? What do I need to do to make myself feel healthy through this downswing? And then eventually it comes out and they're not a burnt potato. Right? They're maybe a little crispier than they would normally be, but they're still pretty tasty. Whereas the majority of humans and poker players, they come out so burnt that by even by the time they're out of their card distribution downswing, they're still in the downswing headspace. They're still expecting to lose. They're still like, so even if you have a positive card distribution for the night, the one bad beat that you take is going to mess up the rest of your EV. And that's a really, really important thing, not just for poker players, but let's say you're an entrepreneur. Right. And this is something that I've really gone through in my career, because my first 4 projects failed. By the time I got to one that actually succeeded, it was because I had taken a break from the entrepreneurial life and come back to it not expecting to fail, but coming back to it having learned lessons, having picked a really good spot, knowing picked a good team, and ready to come at it with a healthy frame of reference, and not from the frame of reference of, oh, this is going to fail again, kind of a thing. And that's something that I think poker is really good at teaching, not just in poker, but in different realms outside of poker as well.
And I love this topic, but for the Live with Mike audience, we're going to try to keep it on.
Yeah, we can keep it more poker.
Yeah, I know you and I definitely have a lot of crossover. But let's get into the PLO hands, which I get really excited about, as Chris Brewer knows. So the first one is a live PLO 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. I'm the 50. I'm running hot in the game. People are not happy with me. This is in San Diego. My villain, player X, is actually a known pro. Anytime a player loses the hand, I don't ever want to.
Yeah, you're good.
So he's 6K behind. He limps in the hijack. Rec player limps on the button. Small blind calls. Big blind folds. First straddle calls. I complete the straddle 50 with king of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds, deuce of clubs. A
little ambitious.
100% premium. But as I said, I'm running hot. People are not happy with me. If I fold in this spot, I better be showing quads.
I feel like you could show, like, okay, let's talk about the couple things that are going on here. Obviously, this is not a good call pre-flop.
No,
and the reason, and just going to talk about generally, the reason why this is a bad call pre-flop is that when playing multi-ways, you want to be able to make the nuts.
Yes.
And so in a 6-way pot, I know you know this way, and we're just talking about it for the audience. In a 6-way pot, if you can't make the nuts, good luck, especially in live PLO. And what's really bad is low pocket pairs as well, because you're going to find yourself in set over setted situations. I haven't even read this hand yet, but I can see the future kind of a thing. It's just like, it happens so often because there's so many more hands out there.
I say these same things in my commentary, but yeah.
Totally. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. And so what Wayne's talking about is that because it's a private game or whatever, he wants to give a little bit more action. And so picking this hand, I would literally, I think even in a game where you're winning, you could probably fold this thing and not feel too bad about it. It's just that bad. But
Dylan, I'm gonna veto you here, and unless I literally show quads, and not even like quads, like has to be bad.
Then pay the $50 and fold 100% of flops. Like that's what I would do. Like even I wouldn't even look at the flop.
That was the plan, except something happened.
Yeah, you flop a set. No, okay. So let's move on. Check to player X in the hijack, correct?
Yeah, so just to touch up your point, I literally say the exact same things in my commentary. Even King X suited, you better have like high card backup, so you could, like, if you have Ace King and King X suited, you could flop top pair and then not flush draw. Sets, you get center set. This is one of the ways people lose. In low stakes PLO, but even in mid stakes, like people say, "Oh, I had a set of 8s." Well, it's like, okay, well, don't play 8s and let's attach to like, King's races.
Yeah, or it's a 3-bet pot, and there are ways to get around that, but in live specifically, you don't want that. That ain't good.
Yeah. So one of the things that my generation which is a little bit before yours, is that we in No Limit Hold'em and Limit Hold'em attempt to play any 2 cards in any spot, and PLO, of course, it's harder because you actually need hands a lot of the times. But that's the things that gives like people like me and Garrett and Andy a little bit more practice with bad hands.
Yeah. I feel that. I've tried to, so I also play like the big live games or whatever, and I just try to be a little more strategic in how I play shitty hands and which specific spots to play shitty hands. Like, for example, I'll 3-bet some people with some bullshit. Like 7-8 40s double suited, yeah, let's get after them. And then I show that down and people don't think I'm a nit, right? Versus this specific spot, it's just like I think that there are ways that you can navigate that same construct and have it be not as detrimental for your win rate, while also still being able to get you into good games and stay in those games.
I definitely agree with just about like limp and then check fold everything, but of course I flop a set of 2s here. And I think some people we potentially mutually know would agree that if I just folded in this spot, like I was already getting yelled at. It wasn't good. So flop is ace of spades, 6 of diamonds, 2 of hearts. So I have the back door, second nut flush draw, and bottom set. Check to player X, who is again a known pro. He bets 200. I believe the pot's 600 approximately. I don't think player X would open limp in the hijack with low cards like 2 through 5. Potentially he could have like 6, 6, 7, 8 double suited or something like that, or he could have 4 live cards with ace X suited that include like ace 6 or ace king 9 7. I'm just giving these example. Or he could limp like aces or kings hoping to back raise. So folded to me, I call, and the $100 straddle folds. My plan was anything 8 or lower I would lead out as a stop and go, because it's unlikely that he limped in with low cards. If he did, obviously, like I said, it would be attached to aces or ace X suited. And it's hard for him to raise because I completed the straddle. I could have the low cards, and it's harder for him to So the turn is the 5 of clubs. I'm guessing player X is less likely to have 3, 4, 5 in his hand, which would have been the inside wrap draw, unless it's attached to ace X suited. I lead 700. Player X seems shocked that I led, and then he quickly calls. So he has most likely something with showdown.
Yep. I'm going to stop you here. So the first thing is that I think your flop check call is fine. I think that your understanding of their range is pretty good too. They'll have some aces, some kings, some ace X type stuff. They didn't raise. And so that's why I think it's less likely they have ace-ace combinations, because it's already a massive straddle hand. And if they have 6K and they just pot it pre, you could just kill it, put in a bunch of death money, and then also be able to pot a lot of flops and not have to think about it. So I think it's less likely they're on the ace-ace king-king spectrum, generally speaking. More likely to be more in the like ace king 9-7 or ace 5-6-7, that type of stuff. The main thing I want to talk about is leading and stop and goes generally, because I think leading is a really good thing to have in your range, but you have to be very, 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 very specific in what hands you lead and on what boards you lead. And so, for example, on this turn, it is okay to play a lead from your position because you limp that straddle, and so you will have some of the nuts in your range, like the 3, 4, 5 type stuff. But you can only lead either the nuts or a hand like 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Four, 6, 7, 8, where you have a wrap and a straight draw kind of a thing, or a wrap, a pair, and a straight draw. Because the way that you have to think about leading is that you have to overcome a positional disadvantage. And when you're overcoming a positional disadvantage, your range has to be strong enough to do that. And you only want to pick hands that either are the nuts or they block and mirror the nuts. So I'm only on this turn leading my best 3-4 combinations, or my bluffs that have a 3 and a 4 in them with a ton of equity. Just because that's going to be the easiest way for a general player to think about a leading range. Because plays like stop and goes, they're a tactic that can still work, but is a little bit more of the older way of thinking about poker. And it's easier, I think, to think about it more so in terms of like whose range is strong and are you allowed to do things. And so in this spot, you are allowed to lead. So I don't hate that you took a lead. I would just probably pick a different combination than this one, because you don't have the nuts and you don't have a card in your hand that blocks the nuts. Yeah. And that actually makes it even more likely that if your opponent's betting this flop, that they are going to have a combination with a 3 or a 4 in it, just because of the way they played the hand. Does that follow?
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, like, to agree with what you're saying is like stop and goes are more exploited
totally
in this era than it was before. I just felt like, and I had a little bit of like the result wise on the turn kind of confirmed what I thought, because I'm not gonna lie, this person knows of me for 20 years of my life.
Yeah, totally.
So if I lead out here, he's probably going to be hesitant to raise because potentially he knows a bet 3-bet could be coming too.
Completely a bet 3-bet can coming. When you have that strong of a range, like the one you're describing, you don't need to play as many leads. You can be more. You actually have to be more careful with your leading range in that scenario.
Okay, so yeah, if I check call the flop, then how would you
check? I would check. I'm continuing as a check. Okay. I don't have an ace in my hand. I don't have a 3 in my hand. I don't have a 4 in my hand.
Okay. My
game is all around blockers and blocker removal and using that to navigate these post flop scenarios. And so I'm check calling flop, check maybe folding turn at some frequency with the bottom set, especially without the 3 and the 4 block. Depends on, you can adjust that depending on the opponent, how tilty they are, whatever you want.
He was
from a game. Okay, so from a game theory scenario, if somebody's barreling this turn, I hate it. Yeah. I hate it, and so I'm probably just folding. Leading here, it helps in that it's hard to play against, but it hurts. It's harder to play. So you kind of have to balance that. Is it better to have something hard to play against, or to be able to actually do yourself?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the way I think about that. But you lead, and then they flat call. River's an 8. You're not allowed to bet this river, just ever. Good. And so I like the check. Yeah, you're not allowed to bet the turn really, but you're especially not allowed to bet the river. Like,
after you talk about it, I'm still leaning towards betting the turn, because like I originally was for the check fold turn as well. But with this, like, I could potentially literally do what I did, which is put 2 streets in and then check on the river.
Yeah, I hear you. It's hard to construct an overall game plan if that's your way of approaching the hand, right? Like, to know which specific combinations to do it with and why you're doing it. It's going to be harder to take that and apply it generally versus in this one specific spot.
I 100% agree with you, but like in this particular case, I thought I could get away with it, and I actually did. So that's all.
Yeah.
I'm not defending my play is good. I think I can get away with it. That's all.
Sometimes you can get away with some shit, and that's okay too. But they check back and you win, which is nice and unlikely. They probably have a 2-pair ace-x combination, like an ace-6, ace-5, ace-8 type thing. Like ace-7-8 makes the most sense here for sure. They can bet that. Like, that's a good hand to bet the flop with, actually, if you're going to be limping it. Because you block top set, you have aces in your range. There's lots of good turns that you could barrel. Yeah, really good hand to bet with. So yeah, I don't mind the way that they played it. The turn lead is hyphy. Let's use that word. It's a hyphy turn lead. The kids would say that it might have been a little out of line, but it's okay. Sometimes we don't kink shame. You want to lead on these turns, you get after it. Sometimes that's okay.
Well, one of the things that I do is I know a lot of people are studied, like, you have a good buddy, Adam Swan. Like, I know that he's incredibly studied, so I generally want to take lines that may throw people off a little bit to start, and, proceed from there, because I rarely play with these guys long term. So,
yeah,
like, throwing them off balance in the beginning.
Shout out to Swan.
All right, next hand.
Oh. Also, we got a couple people in the chat. Stugguts, what's good? Good to see you. A couple other people here. Someone said what's up. Shout out to Mitch. Shout out to Nick.
Surf and snowboard. Nick from Yuma, he always makes fun of our openings. And he says, "What's good? What's Gucci?"
What is Gucci? What is Gucci? That's an existential question that we must face before moving on as a society.
So this next one is a $1, $2 global poker hand.
Online streets?
Online streets. I generally don't play big online. I have streamed and recorded some stuff just for whatever video purposes, but in general, I don't feel confident that I've studied enough, and I haven't studied enough to. Yeah,
the online streets are different. You gotta have the tools to navigate them appropriately. 1-2-1 global is a pretty good pool, though. You can make some money there.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely okay with 1-2 and below in global, but usually because I'm streaming more MTTs now, so when I play these cash games, my head is unwinding. I just don't really want to think that much.
Yeah.
I just want to click buttons. So in this case, the villain, who on the button has 180 bigs, he's been raising a lot of buttons. I haven't seen anything too out of line. I think I would say the worst hand I saw would be something like King Jack 9-8, like one suit, like King X suited,
which is fine.
He's and then he's raising a lot of buttons. I have a hand which is not great, but I'm kind of fed up with him, raising the button, which is a recipe for disaster.
It is a recipe for disaster. I agree.
And so I'm aware of these things and like doing my confessions, and these are why.
Confess to me, my child.
These are the hands.
Yeah, let me absolve you.
It's like if I have the nuts in the hand on all streets, it's not, and get called, it's not really an interesting hand. So I 3-bet the out of line ace queen 8-8 with ace 8 of suited.
Confirmed out of line. So what's actually really interesting is that you picked. So I'm looking at 100 bigs. I'm looking at the matrix right now. Uh-huh. Ace queen 8-8 is the one you're not allowed to 3-bet. You can 3-bet ace king 8-8. Ace Jack 8-8, Ace 10-8-8, Ace 9-8-8, just because of the connectedness to the 8, a little bit more straight potential.
Yeah.
But Ace Queen, there's a gray mark right there. You are confirmed not allowed to do that, and especially this deep. This is at 100 bigs.
Yeah.
You really out of position want the double suited combinations.
Yeah.
And if you are raising this hand, it's to raise fold to a 4-bet.
So what you expressed, I literally found out why the ace queen 8-8 is so bad, is because the flop was jack 10 9 2 clubs. So I flopped the second nuts and the nut flush draw, and now I'm like, and I don't have the queen of clubs. So now I'm like, oh shit. How the hell do I proceed this thing?
It's a good flop. This is a good flop for us, actually.
It is, but like, if he has king queen in position, God forbid, like king queen of clubs or something like that.
So we have no pair blockers, which is really good. If I have bear, let's say I show up, like say I have queen 8-8, and I block this, or like ace queen 8-8 no nut flush draw, which would be kind of weird. It's kind of hard to make a GTO line when you put this combination because we're going off the rails a little bit, but I'm going to just talk about how I think about it. On this specific board, both players are doing pretty good. The 3-better has some top sets, top 2 pair plus straight draws, nut straights, nut flush draws. Blocker is a lot of pocket kings, pocket queens. The in-position player is going to have that as well. So the out-of-position player is doing pretty well, but the in-position player is competitive, which means that as the out-of-position player, we don't get to play too aggressive on this board. I would be checking this combination if I didn't have the flush draw. And because I have the flush draw, I'm allowed to bet it. I think your sizing is fine, half pot. You can size down a little bit on these boards, on the straight boards in 3-bet pots. You could go a third and then check as well. I don't think half pot's terrible. The turn, we check. I don't love it because we don't have pair blockers. We can still get the big issue is having 2 8s, and so we block 8-9, which is not good. But the fact that we have no pair blockers is really, really good for us. Like we don't have a jack, a 10, or a 9.
Yeah.
And so it just allows them to call a little bit more. Yeah, with sets, 2 pairs, all those things. But having the 2 8s is not good because that's the main hand we're trying to get value from is 8-9. Yeah. And so if I bet this flop, I probably am going to bet fold the turn if I have no flush draw, and then with your combination, I'm going to check call it because I don't want to have to bet fold this combination. It just has way too much equity.
Right. That was my thinking, and also,
but
he has called flop and raised turn this session.
You're supposed to do that on this board texture. You're supposed to flat flop and not raise with your nutted combinations like your king queen x and stuff like that. I'd have to look it up though. I'm not sure if Munker would rather us have the flush draw or not have the flush draw. Munker, sorry, for those of you that don't know, that's the game theory. It's the game theory thing. So I don't want to give a definitive answer here. I would probably play it as a check. Just the reason being that people aren't going to continue with the hands that we beat super often. Like they're going to continue with 8-9, but they're not going to continue with bear jack 10 too much anymore. And once you bet flop and bet turn in this spot, especially at 1-2. At higher stakes, maybe you need to bring a little bit more ruckus because you need more aggression because people float you wider because they're supposed to. Yeah. And then on the river, I wouldn't use a half pot sizing. I'd size down to a third because I didn't barrel.
Okay.
Generally, when you don't barrel, you like half pot's okay, but I want to be able to have an even thinner value range here on the river because I didn't bet the turn. And so I'm going to probably go with a third and then a full pot as my 2 sizings instead of having a half pot sizing. Just easier to construct.
Okay. So in the future, even if the button's raising a lot, you suggest just folding this even if I'm not happy with the button? You can find... So the best way to punish people who are too out of line on the button is by picking hands that just have good immediate equity. So raise more pocket queens than you would be flatting versus pocket ace queen 8-8 type stuff. You want to punish people by just getting more money in the pot with good hands as soon as possible. And it's a little different at 180 bigs versus 100 bigs. But if somebody's opening 100% of buttons and you're 100 bigs deep, I start to 3-bet my good pocket jacks. Because like my king queen jack jack type stuff or my ace jack jack 10 type stuff, those are going to get 3-bets even with single suit. Definitely my queens, definitely my kings, definitely my aces. That's the way that you punish in PLO too wide of opening ranges. It's not by playing the hands that might connect with sets. It's just by playing hands that have immediate. It's similar to a tournament. If people have wider ranges, you just want stronger. You don't want suited connectors. You want stronger big cards. Excellent. So another range would be like ace queen jack 8 with ace x suited.
Oh, that's a 3-bet. Not even close. Yeah, not even close.
Well, I got caught against ace king queen jack, and I didn't have this hand on there, but like being result oriented.
Yeah. That's why there's stuff. We have the PLO matrix though. I literally had never seen this hand before. Can just go look up the answer very easily, and that's a super powerful tool that is for any PLO person, in my opinion, necessary. Just because it's $49 a month to have perfect preflop play. That's a pretty cheap deal for almost any online game that you're playing, I think.
So you can see this screen, right?
I'm looking at the stream, so I can see. Yeah, I can see the screen that they can see.
Okay, so this is a couple hands that we played, which aren't exciting, but like I don't know the micromanagement. But in the second one, I don't know if I want to throw you on the bus, but you did have a little bit of a live tell that I'm used to playing on stream, and you probably weren't at this juncture.
Maybe.
So this particular hand.
This is a good game. I forgot. This game was a very good game.
Again, you are not allowed to play the hand that I played. I'm playing because it's on stream. And by the way, Mr. Jose said I wasn't allowed to play unless I gave a little action. So.
Yeah. What combination? I raise. That seems good. You got a little out of line. That's okay.
I do a lot of stuff for stream. I have many friends that say, Wayne, you shouldn't be playing these hands. I'm like, I know. I'm on stream. And
for sure.
Get booted.
See, I play on stream mostly similar to how I like, because I'm already aggressive, so it's not as if I need to be like on when we're playing really big on stream, the whatever 50-100 game, I'm playing how I'm supposed to play, right? Like those are big stakes.
Definitely the lower the stakes, the more I splash.
Oh yeah,
them.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do the same thing. Okay, this board, I'm not supposed to play a ton of c-bets on this board, and this is actually something where my game has gotten better over time. But with this combination, I am comfortable playing a c-bet just because we have both backdoor flush draws.
Okay, both backdoor flush draws.
Yeah, but generally speaking, when you're in the middle position, you don't get to play a lot of c-bets.
Okay. And then the turn's a queen, rainbow queen, and then you check.
Which I'm supposed to.
Yeah, my question is, like, I was pretty sure I had the best hand, but I didn't know whether I should be betting here.
I don't think so. I don't think you should be betting here because you don't have. If you have 1-10 or 1-jack in your hand, you can bet.
It blocks, yeah.
Yeah,
and it also gives a backdoor draw.
Backdoor draw. I don't think you're betting here.
And then on the river,
because I also can still have aces and kings even though you block them.
Right. That's what I was thinking, and obviously a rare something like ace queen combination. And the river, should I be value betting this river? Because in a live setting, I would have tended to, but this is the first time I played with you. I didn't really.
It's a close spot. It's a close spot. It's going to be really hard to get called by worse.
Yeah, that's why I checked. But like,
yeah, I think checking is fine.
So here the graphics are messed up for this one, but I'll try to navigate as much as possible. So I'll fast forward. There's some straddle, and you have ace queen jack 9 ace x suited, and I
very
have
good hand.
I have kings with one suit. I believe what actually happened was.
How deep are you?
I think we're playing 5-10.
5-10. Yeah, calling is fine. This looks fine.
Did
you 3-bet me?
No. I think this is what happened. Like, the graphics were wrong. I think I was the straddle, and then it was like.
Probably not. I don't think you were the straddle because I wouldn't be raising this combination out of position too often.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty sure. Even though it's a good combination, if it's limped to me in this spot, I'm not raising it.
Okay, sorry. So we see Joe Ingram's the big blind.
Yeah.
So what likely happened? Yeah, Jack limped. I think you raised. I called.
Yeah. That's correct. That's correct.
Nowadays, like 9
I think I remember this hand too. So that makes sense. Okay. Oh, what's it like playing live poker?
Okay, check to me. I somehow remember we were already heads up to the flop though.
It looks like people are folding.
Okay, well you check call. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to be. I'm never supposed to bet this board, pretty much ever. As the out of position player, for you, like, I also think that this is wide for you to be betting. I would probably just be checking this combination back, and current Dylan would probably be check raising this board, not check calling it. I would just be check piling to give you to put you in a tough.
Yeah.
Well, you're also because I'm checking 100% of my range in this spot. And because I'm checking 100% of my range, I have to have a pretty robust check raising range. And so having a 9 in my hand is really good. I also don't block like the 7-8 type stuff, which is really good because it adds more like 6-7-8 to your range that you're going to be betting. And so if I check ripping this board, it just puts a lot of your range in a tough spot. You very rarely have top set, if ever. You might have middle and bottom set. In those cases, I have backdoors, right? I have my backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw, backdoor full house stuff. And if you are betting even 9-6, it sucks. If you're betting 6-7-8, that sucks. If you're betting 5-7-8, I'm ahead those hands, and I cap your aggression by having a good check raising range here. So I'm never check folding this hand. It's mostly just, do I want to pick this combination to check raise with, or one with maybe a little more equity? But I have the backdoor flush draw and the backdoor straight draw, so it seems pretty good. And then yeah.
So you end up check calling, and I'm gonna back it up a little, and you'll see. I don't know, like, we're going to analyze your stuff, and you see how you actually try to pretend that nothing's going on. So whether, well, I mean, your hand motions, like my check back on the turn, you're going to see like you quickly check, and then.
Well, it's because I'm checking 100% of my range.
Yeah, I know. You're checking 100% of your range, but then your demeanor changes.
Maybe. It's possible.
Either way, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It could be something, but that alarmed me a little bit. But that actually was relevant to why I didn't call you on the river. I mean, what like heavily weighted why I didn't call you on the river.
Well, you're not supposed to call on the river anyways.
Yeah. Well, I know, but it's a live setting where, I gotta try to do my best to.
Yeah, totally.
Figure out. So on the river, the pot's 850.
What sizing do I use? Let's see. This is before I was like super in the GTO streets either. So did I use a small? I hope I use a small sizing.
There's a possible straight out there.
608.
Yeah, that's a bad size. Not a good sizing.
What should you have done?
200.
No, he likes short stack. He does. I like short stack.
600. You don't get to bet 600 here. You either get to bet 200 or 1,000. Just because I want to make, if you check back the turn after betting the flop,
get in, let it run.
you're going to have a lot of weak 2-pair combinations. And this river also is going to make a lot of straights, and I don't block the straight. And so if I want to be value betting top 2-pair with no blocker, I need to be doing it to a smaller sizing to get called by your worst 2 pairs. So current Dylan would never use the sizing, just because, especially when I don't have any blockers to the nuts. Because a lot of, like, you have a lot of 5-7. You actually have a good raising hand here. Oh yeah, your hand is I actually am probably going to turn your hand into a bluff on this river.
Let's see.
It would work too.
So I would have to like literally.
No, you rip.
Pile.
No, you rip. Yeah, I think ripping this river would have been a really good play by you.
Okay.
Just because you block the 5, and the way you've played the hand is very 5-7 centric. And also, if I'm using that sizing, I'm imbalanced. I'm not playing correctly, which means you get to play more raises. You need to have more bluffs if I'm using that large of a sizing with my Jack-9 combinations. You need to punish me more by having rips with your blockers, because having the 5 and the 4 is so good there for you as blockers, and your kings are not a good bluff catcher to that sizing. You can call to the 200 sizing or the 250 sizing, but you can't call it to the 600 sizing. So that's why this is a bad play by me. I remove the portion of your value of your range that can actually call here efficiently. And I make it no longer indifferent. I make it just an easy fold. Versus if I use my $200 sizing, then it's really, really hard for you with like your Jack 9, 9, 6, 6, 4, 6, 3, 3, 4, all the cheaper combinations you can have. And I also get to play folds to raises, relatively easy with no blockers.
I'm a barbarian live player. I'm just like, oh, I think this guy has it.
I'm not. I'm a GTO live player, but I do the live shit every once in a while. But it's really, I love finding myself making obvious mistakes.
Oh, I see it.
Because if I've made obvious mistakes, that means I've learned. So that's a spot where my river range is just so much more well constructed now than it was in the past. And so it's cool to see those things. Anyway.
Yeah, and I like that you brought out that I could raise, because I'll definitely incorporate that in my game.
Yeah, it's totally. I think raising's the play. I don't even think I think that's a great hand to raise with.
I'll definitely keep that in mind in my future sessions. So right here, as I bing this PLO 4K MTT. The big...
You say Bing and I say Bink. It's so weird. I keep thinking that you're mispronouncing it, but I say Bink all the time, like Bink.
Different generation.
Yeah, different generation.
So here, so like I said, global's very fit or fold. Like I'm not technically allowed to play online, but global, I was told is skirting the edge, especially during quarantine time. This hand is not great, especially with a deuce in it.
Nah, it's really bad. I just fold it. Okay. I'm not even, especially in a tournament setting. Even though, so in a tournament setting, in a PLO tournament, you can apply a lot of pressure, but this person isn't the stack that you can apply a lot of pressure to.
Go show.
Out of position. Out of position.
Yeah, whatever. Play this spot.
Yeah,
I do take a lot of liberties.
Hyperbolic time chamber, man.
This guy's
That's what I tell people.
Basically, what I do is like anything, like I could like remotely play. I'll just like limp and then just stab any flop. I don't know if that's like a potential thing.
It's not really like generally speaking. If you're the big stack, you want to just apply a lot of pressure because ICM is a real thing in PLO tournaments.
Yeah.
And so instead of playing a really wide limping range, I just play a more aggressive raising range because equities run closer.
Got it.
And it just you could just beat people up in ICM. But so when you have the big stack, you just you're throwing it at people constantly.
Okay. So then a lot of times if you have like, I don't know, do you raise and then when they 3-bet, like small blind versus big blind, then if they 3-bet, you just like reevaluate your hand.
Yeah, and B also just to call a lot. Right, you have a big stack.
I mean, they're gonna probably fold it anyway.
You don't want to be calling. You don't want to be raise calling hands like Jack 8-8 deuce because they flop poorly. But if you have like King Queen Jack 8 to a 3-bet single suit, call that shit. Like you're able to be so aggressive with your stack and with your chips, and people have to be. They have to be pretty aware of that in a lot of scenarios because it's just so much easier for you to crush them than it is for them to double.
You want to steal the blinds anyway
because it's a tournament, right? They only have one shot in a cash game. You get to be more. Yeah, you get to rebuy all the time, which happens all the time. Whereas in PLO, it's just not as much of a thing.
The small blind has the second biggest stack. Let's see. Ruined your life.
You want to find some good hand? Is this your Probably would be good to do some. Is this the final table?
This is the final table. We have options.
Cool. Yeah, let's just find some spots that you're in.
First, I'll try to.
You have to play these home games with me, okay?
So as the big stack at a final table, you get to apply a lot of pressure. That's for sure a thing. And so like with the Ace King King 7 thing, you just could be full potting that because the small blind should never be 3-betting you ever. Even with aces, they're supposed to flat you.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because of stack distribution. You're the only person that can stack them ever. And so they have to be playing crazy tight as the second place player whenever you enter a pot.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Like I would, I'd completely overlooked that he was second. Like I do that when I'm in his position, but like especially when you're final table, you're already in the money. I think 9 places paid. But if you're a shorter stack, you have aces. I'm just like whatever.
Oh no, shorter stack, easy peasy. I'm saying in their specific position,
he's second.
He's in what we call an ICM vacuum,
right?
Where he is just so incredibly handcuffed by ICM in PLO, and it shows up way more in PLO than it does in Hold'em. And so you have to be aware of that. Like this hand, blind versus blind, if I was limped into, I would be raising because there are 2 players that have shorter stacks than this person and 1 player with 5 big blinds.
So he doesn't want to bust.
Can you come at 4 in the morning?
And
I know.
You have ace in your hand, so you block the limp raises with ace. Your hand doesn't flop super well. It's a raise. Oh no, you're rainbow. Rainbow, you can check. I thought you had the spades, but it's close. Even if I have the 9 high suit here.
Yeah,
I'm going after people because
I'm trying to.
But betting the flop is good. You need to be really aggressive with your
with
your
stack.
stack.
Half and half. Sometimes it's full PLO.
Blind versus blind.
I don't want to say his name on air.
This is a little hyphy. If I have a king high suit, I'm raising this combination against this dude because they have to play tight. They just have to. They have no choice if they're playing well. And you can if somebody's not even paying attention to that shit, you adjust, right? If somebody doesn't care about ICM and is just looking at their hands and clicking buttons, then you don't ICM abuse them as much as you normally would. But if somebody is paying attention to it, then you just beat up on them super hard.
Okay, I think I played the next hand. Let's see. This was a couple months ago, and I think
Yep.
I feel like I played better, but my results have been worse.
Happens to everybody.
Okay. I'm trying to get to.
So now that there's one player that's busted, you have to be a little more aware. Like, there's no longer a 5 big blind stack, so ICM's a little more flat. Something you can think about.
So this guy limps in the hijack, and I have a rainbow queen 6-7-5.
And they should be limping, actually, into your big blind.
Okay.
It's completely fine to play a limping range here as the second stack when the big blind is the big stack.
So they're just trying to flop big?
They're just it's not that they're trying to flop big, it's that they're just not allowed to play big pots against you because of the 2 other short stacks. They have to minimize the size of the pot as much as possible because you're the only person that can beat them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just never obviously when I'm playing I'm more in tune with my opponents, so I just don't know when I'm stabbing or not.
This is a great stab for you as the big blind. We have 1 diamond. I think it's a good spot.
I think
we have
that
a lot
TSB
of
guy's a streamer.
TSB.
I think I play against play against a lot of streamers. So here he's a bigger stack. Do you prefer limping with?
Yeah.
This?
Yeah. You guys you're close enough in stack parity. That limping. You can also just not. You probably can't fold. Maybe it's close. I haven't. I'd have to look at. Let's check the handy dandy. Yeah, let's check the handy dandy matrix. For those of you that don't know, the matrix also allows you to do tournaments. Feels really good. NTT. Oh wait, is that dead? No, it's not dead. Please select. 40 BB. There it is. It's not working. So small blind. We have bad ace queen. Yeah, you get to play this hand.
Okay, so I flop trips. That should be checking, right?
You should be. No.
No.
You should be bet because you're supposed to bet a lot, right? It's the same thing. You're taking a ton of aggression here against this person, and so you gotta because you're taking so much aggression, you have to fill out the value range as much as possible.
Got it.
If I have my bad queen X here, maybe I could check my queen 4-7-6 single suit stuff. That can check, but my good ace, my good queens, you don't need to slow play them because you need to bet so much value.
Got it. Yeah,
Definitely bet this turn.
I'm definitely professional to get that river.
Also, when we stab here, we just bet 1 big blind. We don't bet 2.
Okay.
Because we didn't bet the flop, and so we shouldn't have that many traps. But did he call? He just pot?
He called. You probably rivered the wheel.
Or a queen X that he checked back flop, which that's unlikely. Yeah.
I'm getting in the lab.
Hell yeah. Sometimes I gotta be in the lab. So we have a pretty standard payout structure as well. So I'm always paying attention to the payout structures. If it's top heavy, bottom heavy, very much adjust the way you need to play. For any of you that want to learn about ICM, Nick Petrangelo has the best ICM course that I've ever seen. I final tabled a Venetian tournament, having not played Hold'em in 3 years. That morning, just watched Nick Petrangelo's ICM videos, literally helped me ladder multiple spots, make me like 30K. Felt really good.
So he checks back the ace 5-3 suits. Is this worth stabbing on the turn?
Did they open?
He opened the button. I think he min raised and that called in the big blind.
Yeah, we should totally stab this turn, but we should do it small.
Okay.
Pot is also good. Pot and small are good sizings here. They have more ace wheel stuff than we do because they raised and we called.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do not mind the pot size bet at all. Like 1 big blind and full pot are both good.
Okay, let's see. So he limps small blind. I got the 10-9-6. Okay, I remember this hand was really interesting. Like, I have no idea. But like a little bit what like this free Ivy guy didn't bluff that much, I believe. It's not, obviously he's not incapable of bluffing, but if he's going to bet like multiple streets.
I'm probably going to have a robust equity, a hand with either really good blockers or really good equity.
Yeah. So he bets the flop. And I call.
Yeah, it's fine.
Turn 2 pair. Straight gets there.
Calling is completely fine here. We have all the backdoors. 7 is good, Jack is good, 9 is good, 10 is good, club is good, 6 is decent.
Yeah, I definitely call here. The thing is, he flop bet, turn bet, river bet.
Flop bet, turn bet, river bet. This turn you can't fold because you have the 9-10.
Yeah, but he potted the river. No, I called the turn. Yeah,
I call turn fold river. This is fine. We have no blockers. They have to have specifically 4-4-5-5 type stuff. Just much more likely they have it. People don't have chutzpah on final tables. They don't bring the ruckus.
There's no way I play this hand. Okay, so let's see.
Easy
fold there.
Easy fold here. Who's on stream with you?
That's Kevin Say, who's just a Live at the Bike fan.
Nice.
Because he's been playing the private game streets, even though I told him not to.
Sometimes you got to get in there.
Yeah, but it's more like I'm gonna be more aware of situations that are sketchy than
I don't
person.
I don't play private.
Well, the ones I play in are extremely trusted people and mostly can cover every dollar not regarding poker.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so this is a very good hand on the button. Ace King 10-9, Ace X suited.
This is a good hand on the button.
So
Full
would
pot.
you pile here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always.
Now, yeah.
So the reason why we're not min raising is because we get to apply maximum pressure to the blinds as the big stack, and we want them to fold at a really high frequency and just win the pot, even when we have Ace King 10-9.
Right.
And so you just want to. This is another one of those ICM spots where you just get to beat them up super hard. Check back flop, I think it's fine here. This combination's a little too good to see bet.
Because you don't want to get blown off the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, turns an ace, obviously very good.
Very good. I bet 3/4 on this turn.
I don't remember what I do. This is a long time ago.
Yeah. The reason why we get to so generally speaking, when you check back the flop, you don't get to bet big on the turn because you've capped yourself. But this is a board texture changing turn, right? We have aces, ace 10, like the nuts have effectively changed. You can think about this as in the same way you'd think about a flush coming in or the board pairing. Yeah. And so the effective nuts have adjusted. I probably wouldn't go full pot here with my whole range. I'd probably just go 3/4 so that I can take more bets with ace, king, queen type stuff, ace, queen, jack type stuff. If we have those combinations and we use a full pot sizing, it doesn't feel as good because we just fold out too much of our opponent's range that we're beating. Full pot is just a little, it makes it hard for our opponent to continue with the worst hand.
Ooh, that's a rough river.
Yeah, I'm like a little bit behind you. Just this is a bad river.
Yeah, I just snap folded.
Yeah, very bad. We have no spades in our hand.
Yeah.
You just got to fold this one. Not think about it.
I apparently didn't think.
Yeah, felt good. Easy peasy.
Then they show the bluff, right? Okay, let's see. Okay. What did I do? Did I limp in?
No.
I guess I have a hand here. Let's see what I did. So he limps in the cutoff. Do you think it's still okay for him to limp?
He's supposed to be.
Okay.
It's supposed to be limping. There's still someone shorter than him. Right? The person that has whatever 15 bigs. I can't do math right now. Sorry, it's not. It's more than that. It's 18 bigs. The person that has 18 bigs is out of position generally, and so they should be limping a lot. They should be either min raising or limping and playing a really heavy limping strategy as the third place stack just to try to ladder.
Got it.
And anything you think about Hold'em ICM, you have to ramp up even more. I did the tournament section of the Advanced PLO Mastery course. Chris and I ran a decent amount of Munker sims, and that's just what we found out is that ICM is so nasty for PLO tournaments that if you are in an ICM spot, multiply it in your head by 5 for how you need to adjust it. Like really ramp up on it. That's the way that you have to play these final tables in PLO tournaments.
Okay. Let's check this.
See what the. Sorry, remember I'm a little behind you.
No problem. Yeah, take your time.
Checking. This is fine. This is not a bad flop for you actually, because there's a lot of good backdoors.
And I have 2 kickers to 2 pair.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 2 kickers to 2 pair, both of which are live. I probably am calling this flop actually.
I think
we have enough.
Oh, he check raised.
If this person check raises, it's just not close. Yeah. We give it up.
I think I thought about calling. I'm not sure. But...
Calling is, I think, standard here as the big stack.
Again, I have a non-suited ace in the small blind. I limped. What do you think of the limp there? I'm
gonna be raising this combination, blind versus blind, because we just get to really start to beat up on this person.
Okay.
And I'm definitely betting this flop. Really good flop for us.
I definitely did that.
Yeah, the 4 is good. Inside straight draw is good. Backdoor diamonds are good.
I'm pretty sure I don't play this. Okay, well, definitely don't play it. Did I play a big blind? Okay, so I think I fold this pre.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do I call? Okay, no, I would have been really surprised if I called. King
Jack 5-7 try. This is a fine defend. Actually, not really when they're limping. If they have a limping strategy, it means when they raise that they're super, super strong.
Yeah, that's, I think, what I figured.
Yeah. Let's fast forward a little bit. My brain is starting to kind of drain from staring at. Yeah, let's look to the, like, if we can get to the later ones.
Okay. Is this too light of a min raise?
No, that's fine. Oh, that looks spicy. You got a check raise or something. This is a good min raise. From the button, I'm probably open potting everything in this spot because of the blinds, but under the gun we can just min raise.
Got it. Oops. Oh, here was an interesting hand because I cover the board. That was really weird. Okay, so I have 10-10-9-7 rainbow. I know I play this hand post flop. I don't remember what happens. Okay,
limping this, yeah, it looks like we limp this.
So this is strange because I covered the entire board, right?
Let me look at it real quick. I bet this flop.
Okay. I guess I checked and I turn a straight and I bet.
Yeah, I same thing here. We get to bet a lot, so let's just bet our value. Turn a straight. Betting here is perfect.
And then I potted the river, and then you folded.
I'm going to be using a small sizing on this river because we block the hands our opponent can call with.
Got it.
Right, we block the 9x. We don't block kings, queens, but they're raising some of those. We don't block aces. It's a close spot, but I probably am just going to use a small sizing, try to get called.
So a big mistake I'm doing is just like not potting the river, right? Or sorry, potting the...
Not potting the button. Yeah, you really want to be punishing the blinds here. There's a really cool final table, the one that we reviewed. It was from a 25K PLO, and I forget the dude who won it, but he really understood the ICM asymmetry and was just savaging people. I'm not c-betting this board multi-ways. I don't c-bet multi-ways as the initial raiser unless I have some sort of board interaction. Yeah. And so one of the big fallacies that a lot of people have from old school PLO is you need to protect your hand.
Yeah.
And that just isn't a thing. Because you can't protect your hand. There's so many crazy turns. And so because of that, it's much better to just bet hands with more robustness or more removal and then check the middling stuff like this one. Like on this turn, I'm never potting this turn. I'm just checking this turn because we only get it in bad ever. Yeah. They're either folding a worse hand like ace queen or getting it in with a 2 pair combination. And our hand is good enough to check back. We're not going to lose too often on the river.
I think we're down to the final 3. Should be done pretty soon.
Cool. Did you get second in this one?
No, I won this one.
Hell yeah, feels good.
I've won 2. I came in second 1, and I final tabled like quite a bit. But these fields are soft, and thank you for improving my game because I definitely am just clicking buttons.
yeah. But sometimes you can click. Sometimes you click some buttons. Feels good to click buttons. I might do a PLO tournament session on Sunday. There's a couple of good tournaments that are running, so I might do a PLO tournament session on Sunday.
I would love to tune in, except I'm streaming all day Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, he has aces this hand with the hearts. Yeah.
You don't fold here ever. Yeah, you have the ace. You have the ace block. Looks like not a good flop.
Okay, so I'm just min raising the button. I just need to pile on with these stronger hands.
When you're the chip leader.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. It's about the ICM. If you're the small stack and the blinds have a bigger stack than you, then you're not just snap piling every flop or whatever.
Do I check here?
Checking is good here on this board. No board interaction, no spades in our hand. I'm calling this turn most likely. And then when check 2, I'm betting half pot. Because this is one of those spots where we can fold to a check raise. We can clean up a ton of equity. By just getting them to fold a king and a queen in their hand is huge. And then we are champions. I like your sizing on this river, actually. Really good sizing.
Ace, king, 7-7 rainbow.
This would be a...
Raise?
Nah, not with no suit. With one suit, yes. I'm never folding this flop with ace of clubs in my hand. Good, yeah, I like betting. We have a bluffing combination here.
Oof.
Turn 3 is fine. River club on the 9 is interesting. I just check and lose.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have so many flushes that are never folding because of the double board pair.
So I have ace, king, 9-9 rainbow in the small blind. Weirdly, now I just start to show aggression.
Yeah, this is a limp. This is not especially because now you relatively have the same stack set. That you should bet this flop. Oh my god, this is a great flop for you. You bet it small too. You bet like 1/3 here, because we have the 2 9s and the club, ace of clubs. That is, if you're not bluffing this flop, which you did a good job. But if you're not bluffing this flop, you are not bluffing enough. Period.
I don't remember what I was thinking, but like.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
You found the aggression.
Oof, I set a 6s.
Good check. This is amazing flop. They have more aces than we do because they get to limp ace XX. So we shouldn't be raising too much on the flop here. This combination is good enough to raise with.
You should raise?
Should not be raising too much because they have more aces than we do.
Yeah. So my question is on the turn. Like he leads on the turn and I just like rip it. Should I rip it smaller?
No. This is fine.
He called.
Yeah, this is fine. They have a lot of ace king they don't have kings pretty much ever when they bet flop, unless it's specifically ace king king, which we're not worried about too much anyways. This river, I'm probably not potting this river because I'm not getting called by ace king anymore.
Okay.
And
I felt it was very difficult. He could bet the flop and have ace queen 10 in his hand. Not impossible, but
yeah, but it's more about what combinations can they call you with. Yeah. And so you want to make their calling range wider so that they can call you with ace jack and ace king. And so if you are going to bet this river, you have 2 sizings. You have a half pot sizing and a full pot sizing. The full pot sizing is just the nuts and your blockers like your pocket queens, and then the half pot sizing is your stuff that you want 2 pairs to call, so your sets, and then your smaller bluffs as well.
Okay, so I have aces here, and I have the ace of spades, which is why I bet the flop. You check.
You should check this flop back because you're not going to be c-betting your bare ace x flush draw type stuff. Mm-hmm. You're going to be checking that back and then c-betting your worst spades, because your good spades you don't want to get check raised off of, and your worst spades are fine getting check raised off of. Like if you have like jack high flush draw or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, this hand I had a lot of questions too. So this guy min raises. I just call with ace queen 9 double suited. I have 2 queen blockers to the king jack 9 rainbow.
Del Corona, the pocket queens that reach the river on that line would be your like queen XX, like queen rundown type stuff, as well as some of your like double suited queen that didn't decide to raise, which it shouldn't too often, should be raising at some frequency. But remember, if somebody limps, they're limping more aces and kings than you are, therefore you don't get to raise too many queens. And so you actually will have a somewhat decent amount of queen XX, blind versus blind there. I can even.
Oh no, this says he buttoned. He raised on the button, and I just called ace queen queen 9.
Oh no, I'm talking about the previous hand.
Oh okay.
Because I was saying that you would have bluffs with queen queen XX, and so I'm saying that you will have a decent amount of queen queen XX because you're not raising your bad queens there because your opponent's going to be limping aces and kings still in pre-raise, and so you have to not be raising a ton of queens blind versus blind because like that combination is worse to raise than like an ace X type combination because ace X removes pocket aces.
Okay, so this one, the button raised, I have ace, queen, queen, 9 double suited. I'm sure you can raise, but it felt like I could navigate better in post, so I just call. Flops king, jack 9. I check call and was planning to give up the turn if he showed aggression.
I'd check raise.
You check raise because the blocker.
Yeah, we have pair blocker, one backdoor flush draw, and the 2 queens. And we block aces, like ace. We don't block pocket kings, but
my fear was that if he actually woke up with like kings or jacks, he wouldn't be folding, or obviously the queen.
Yeah, but that happens at not a super high frequency.
Got it.
And we block pocket 9s.
Okay. So I did pot this river as a bluff in case he had like king jack or king 9 or something.
Yeah, good, really good. If the turn goes check, check, definitely potting the river is what you want to do here. I like it a lot.
Okay, let me fast forward to. Oh, I think here's a hand where on the turn I have 2 pair flush draw, and I think the river was ugly. I think it just bets the turn I fold.
Yeah, this is fine, and then just fold the river.
Now I just randomly start potting and piling it on. Oh, sorry, the button raise, and then I'm gonna just get to the more heads up portions.
Yeah, I like 3-betting this, and I'm just potting this flop too, with their stack size. You want to get them to fold as much as possible. We have a good hand, easy peasy. This seems very standard. Yeah.
We're almost
getting
done.
it
All right,
here.
I got it in bad. Well, not super bad, just like probably like 40%.
Yeah, this is fine. This is a super fine get in. You don't even think about it. Good luck. Good job being a champion, spiking the river. Great flop. Wow. This is how you win PLO tournaments, man.
Yeah, exactly. Just beat dealt winners.
Flop sets and straights at the same time.
Oh, so here you see this hand. I think this is the last hand. So there's a key hand where I flop. I'm raising. I raised button ace king 9-7 rainbow. I flop top 2, and I think I retained top 2 to the river and just like
pile. Yeah, flop c bet's too big because we want to be betting this flop a lot, and so you just want to bet small on this flop, like 30%. It's such a dry board texture. They didn't 3-bet you pre-flop, so you're winning. You're just crushing them with range, and so you just got to bet small.
Okay, so then I did put him on like 2 pair ace 4 9-4 and on the river.
Yeah, I like your turn sizing.
Yeah, just put him in the river.
I think that's fine, especially with if you didn't have the 7 in your hand, I wouldn't be stoked on it. But having the 7 blocking 5-7, it's pretty fine. It's a good value rate. I think some people would miss this value bet, so I like it.
Okay, let's see. Let me not mess up this.
GG?
GG. Let me go back to us. Oh, did I not?
No, you didn't. You did that on our screen on Zoom, but not on the live of the back stream.
Got it. Okay, so it's back on us. I guess the last bit. Do you have anything to summarize for what the course is on Upswing and how it helps? Like, obviously, this was incredibly informative to me and the audience.
Yeah, totally. So my new course is the PLO Launchpad. Is on Upswing Poker. Generally speaking, it's just a very easy to access introduction to PLO for those of you that are newer to the game, even those of you that have been playing it for a little bit. I think that it's especially helpful for people that have some experience in PLO, but maybe not a ton. Because one of the biggest issues with a game like PLO is creating a thought process that you can actually use to make decisions with. How do you think about which hands to bluff with? How do you think about which hands to value bet with? Which hands to play free flop? And so the course was constructed in a way where I'm giving you a vocabulary to approach the game with. So it's less about giving you all the answers, but more about teaching you how to fish, and then giving you the axioms that you need to build your game more and more from the ground up. And then eventually, as you get good enough, you'll put in a lot more time. We have the Advanced PLO Mastery course, which is literally the GTO PLO textbook. It's, I think, the best PLO course that exists. Probably one of the best poker courses ever created. I'm biased, but it's just insane, especially for the value. And yeah, I think they're both really good. They work really well in tandem. And I stream on Twitch as well. My Twitch screen name is Cookies1, COOKIES1. I should know my own Twitch stream name. I stream most Mondays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, generally, some Sundays. And that's where you'll get kind of I don't do I do some teaching on stream, but it's good to just like watch and passively learn which hands I'm playing. Yeah.
Definitely. That's definitely helped me like refine pre-flop. If you ever see somebody at their tables, this Cookies gives you diabetes, that's me. One of these days.
I love it. Doug Corona asks, what's my screen name? I'm iHeartCookie on WSOP. I don't want to give my other screen names. Sorry, fam.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's all I got. This has been awesome. I really appreciated it.
Two quick things. One, tune into Dylan Weisman and Joe Ingram's podcast. Those are amazing. And then any last tips on mental health? And then,
any last tips on mental health? That's a very good question. I think specifically right now, a lot of people are getting impatient, given the world that we live in. We've been in a COVID environment for so long that it's becoming harder and harder to become patient, and generally humans are starting to make less rational decisions, whether that be for their mental health, whether that be for their emotional health, whether that be for their physical health. And so right now, if I could give one general piece of advice to the general population, it would be to do a really big check-in with yourself and see if you are maybe starting to over-index into things that are less healthy for you because you just quote unquote want this to be over. I have one of my favorite stories. I was backpacking in the ecosystem around Seattle with my really good friend Harrison. Awesome dude. And we are on day 4, an hour away from our car after having done this ridiculous backpacking adventure. I have blisters on my feet. I'm exhausted. We had just jumped into a freezing cold river. I almost got hypothermia. Like, my body is wrecked. It was beautiful. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And I remember asking Harrison, like, yo, dude, how close do you think we are to the car? And his response to me was, I have no idea. This is my life now. And so instead of trying to predict how long this thing is going to last, his mindset was just getting himself through his current reality until it actually changes. So instead of being impatient and wanting to get to a destination, maybe rushing, possibly hurting himself, or hurting himself emotionally and mentally because we don't actually know how far we are until things go back to normal. Maybe we don't know what normal is. I really recommend instead accepting what your current reality is, checking in with yourself and figuring out how you can optimize today. How can you make yourself as healthy as you can be today? Because this is your life now. We don't know when this is going to end. And so from my perspective, it's just important to focus on what you can control, which is yourself and your mental, emotional, and physical health. And instead of trying to project when this will end and what you're going to do when it's over, because we don't know when that is.
All right, Dylan, thank you for your time. If you want to sign up to Upswing, the link's below. Dylan Weisman, also Chris Wayner did the PLO Master course.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Wayne. It's always a pleasure talking to you. This is super fun, dude.
As well. You too.
All right.
Take it easy.
Take it easy, friend.